Welcome back into the show. Cut the Killer Carbs right here with Dr. Justin Anderson, Metabolic Coaching. Check out the website, metaboliccoaching.net. Of course, his direct number, 448-0322. Of course, you can like us on Facebook as well, Cut the Killer Carbs. And let me say good morning once again to Dr. Justin Anderson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Wade. Good to see you.
Yes, and Colonel Lewis staying over. I don't know why. No, I do know why. He's going to tell us why. He's going to tell us why he's staying over on this program, by the way, which is really cool.
Well, I just met Colonel Lewis for the first time.
Yeah, that's right.
But I'm not new to his program, and I wanted to talk about that. And I'm going to stay for just a brief couple of minutes here because I know you got a lot of good things to talk about today. But
no, that's fine.
I'm going to tell you that I was driving on I-27, listening to this very show back in January, and I thought to myself, you know what? This is the kind of stuff that I need to take a look at and try to figure out. And so I heard Dr. Anderson talking about cutting the killer carbs. I had a few run-ins with pre-diabetic and then type 2 diabetic, and
right.
As a pilot was starting to lose my eyesight, that was quite disturbing to me. Got my blood sugars checked. Of course, they were way out of control. My A1C way out of control. And I took a stand and I said, I'm going to do something. And this sounds like a reasonable program. I watched all your videos on YouTube out there.
Right.
Watched all that, and I thought, boy, this is a guy that knows what he's talking about.
You're right.
Went to the Wheat Belly. You recommend a whole bunch of different books, but I started reading the Wheat Belly series in particular, Dr. William Davis. And here I am, I'm going to say 10 months later, 35 pounds lighter, all my blood work under control and everything else. So I stuck around here this morning to say, folks, you need to pay attention to this stuff because this really, really works.
Let me ask you a question, Colonel.
Sure.
Do you limit 20 carbs every day? I mean, are you doing it 7 days a week, 20 carbs or less?
This is a way of eating. It's not a diet. It's not like I'm going to lose the weight and then I can go back to whatever else. It's a way of eating.
Right, exactly.
It's a lifestyle. And I was part of the no donut left behind crowd. Will Rogers once said, I never met a cookie I didn't like, or something like that, and that's what I did. I'd be that guy that opened up the sleeve of Thin Mints and say, I'll just have 2. You don't get to eat just 2. I ate a whole sleeve, and it's like somebody hide these from me quick. And so, no, this is a way of eating. And I made the comment here to Dr. Anderson that, now I'll watch people eat, big old piece of chocolate cake or whatever else, and it doesn't bother me.
Yeah.
I have my way of eating. There are people that become OCD about this.
Right.
I am not counting the exact number of carbs. I know what I can eat. I know what I can't eat. We eat well. We eat nice ribeye steaks, and I'll put guacamole or something like that on top of
Perfect.
it, and do those and just watch.
So you've eliminated all breads, most of the
grains across the board.
Nothing.
That was hard for us to give up the pastas, but that gliadin in your brain is addictive.
And it makes you feel bad.
Yeah, stopping smoking, you got to stop.
Exactly, and that first month was hell. You get all those carbs and all that, everything out of your system.
Yeah.
You wake up and you feel like, I can't do this another day. I can't do this. And then one day the fog lifts and it's like, I feel better than I've ever felt in the last decade probably. And so,
congratulations.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've got to run. I've got another appointment, but I wanted to stick around and say thank you to Dr. Anderson for providing me that brief moment of inspiration to get me started down.
Are you going to cheat any on Thanksgiving? I have to ask.
Probably not, believe it or not.
Because now if you eat it, you feel bad.
I do. I ate a piece of birthday cake, my mom's 80th plus birthday party, and my wife and I said, well, probably be rude not. We ate the birthday cake, instant headache. And I'm like, there's my message right there. Stay away. And what you find out is there's lots of other ways you can go about finding foods to keep you perfectly happy, to keep doing all the things. A bacon cheeseburger with guacamole and sometimes pulled pork with no sweet barbecue sauce on top of it, and no bun. And you eat it with no bun, and I feel great.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, I'll ask you one question on
Please.
your way out. You had mentioned your type 2 diabetes, your hemoglobin A1C.
Mm-hmm.
So what were the numbers that changed?
So I was at 9.2 or something like that when I was diagnosed as type 2. going on this way and down to 5.1.
Congratulations.
Right in the heart of the
Normal.
envelope, normal, everything else. And, I'm going to say easy to maintain. We don't go crazy. We drink bulletproof coffee in the morning. I put coconut oil in my coffee. I do all those things. And really, my biggest challenge is finding enough fat to get into my diet.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. I am not medical in any way, shape, or form. I'm just going to sit here and tell you that it works. But you got to be committed to doing this. You can't say, well, I'll do this right up till Thanksgiving, and then I'll blow it off for the holidays, because I think too many people. It's like, I'll just have a little bit of whiskey if you're an alcoholic, or I'll just have a little bit of this or a little bit of that, and you go right to it. So, again, thank you for what you're doing.
You're welcome. Yeah, absolutely. 95% of diets fail at a year. And so here you are at 10 months. You got 35 pounds off. So something flipped the switch in your brain.
Yep.
And congratulations.
Yeah, and
Pleasure.
Both Robin and I say all the time, it's not worth it. I'm not going back.
Don't tell me how much weight she lost. She might.
No, well, she didn't need to lose the weight like I did, but we both
Sounds like my wife.
We both feel wonderful, I will tell you that. And so I'm actually headed to have breakfast with her as we speak, and I'll have a couple of eggs and either ham or bacon and sliced tomatoes on the side, and I'm good to go. So
That's wonderful.
yeah, no more hash browns, no more breads, but I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Not a big deal, really, once you get used to it.
Absolutely.
It's that straightforward.
It really is, and it's just a different way of eating. And we were mentioning during the break here, the first thing they did is say, well, you're type 2, we're going to put you on the American Heart Association diet.
Right.
Which will kill you.
Whole grains.
Whole grains, yeah. Built by the USDA, not by anybody with knowledge.
When I was in medical school, they told me the Kellogg Corporation came up with the food pyramid.
Yeah,
That's
shocking.
That's why it's called the Breads and Cereal Group.
There you go.
Pleasure to meet you.
I've got to
Thank
run.
you for coming in.
Yeah, my pleasure. I've been looking
Thanks,
forward
Colonel.
to
I'll
this for a
see
while,
you
so
tomorrow morning bright and early, 7 o'clock.
You bet.
All right. Well, here we are. I think the Colonel kind of got us rolling there, obviously, with his comments about the holiday season and, of course, Thanksgiving this week, and then we have Christmas right around the corner. Lots of holiday parties in between. And then we have those glorious, fabulous New Year's resolutions that everybody says, oh, I'm going to go get a gym membership, and I'm going to start working out this time, and I'm going to lose a bunch of weight, and I'm going to, for once and for all, take care of all my health challenges, and I'm going to do this. I'm bound and determined. I'm doing it January 1. And
every time I work
that usually
out,
fails.
It makes my knees hurt, so I've kind of given up on working out. I tell you, I will. I'll do some pull-ups now and then.
Yeah.
I like to do some pull-ups. I may do some squats. I do some back exercises. I may do some sit-ups. But working out at the gym, I've given up on that.
Yeah, I don't have a gym membership at all because there's no reason really to have one. The fact of the matter is your own body weight is plenty enough.
Plenty of resistance.
Especially if you're over the age of 50. Just you moving your own body around through plyometrics is going to be exactly what you need to do. And you can do that in the comfort of your own home and not have to worry about getting rooked into a constant monthly charge and all that kind of garbage.
So one person had made a comment on the YouTube channel one time, and they said, "Oh, I can't believe you said that someone has to work out with heavy weights to build muscle." But and I think that was kind of a misinterpretation because you can use your own body weight to build muscle.
Oh, sure.
And you'll do fine.
Look at gymnasts.
And I think coming up to the holidays, a lot of times I tell people over Thanksgiving vacation, if you're doing the program, if you're doing the low carb program, you're losing weight, you're making progress, coming into the holidays, your goal is not necessarily to lose weight the week of Thanksgiving. Your goal is to not put on 5 pounds or put on 10 pounds. If you can maintain your weight through Thanksgiving, then it's a lot easier.
You're ahead of the curve.
You're ahead of the curve. You're ahead of the game. And so that's a good goal, number one. And I think something the Colonel mentioned is big, is that he's not going to cheat over the holidays because he doesn't feel tempted. And doing the metabolic coaching program, all this stuff he did is free.
Right.
He did all the free videos. The audio tracks you can download that work in a similar way to hypnosis. All he did was the free program, and the temptations are gone. He's changed his mindset. He's feeling the best he has in 10 years. And so just go to the website, metaboliccoaching.net, and on metaboliccoaching.net, click on free content. And if you click on free content, you can get all the stuff that the Colonel had to do the program. It's all right there, the videos. If you want to do a live coaching program with me where I kind of address what your individual health concerns are, not kind of, but that's why I address your individual health concerns, then you can register on metaboliccoaching.net. Just click on the register tab.
Right.
And by the way, we're not going to do a follow-up this Friday. This Friday we're taking vacation for the holiday. But what we usually do is a follow-up every week. And so some people come to all the follow-ups, some people come when they can. But the follow-up's like a support group, and a lot of people like that. So
Yeah, they do.
somebody like the Colonel doesn't need a support group, but some people do.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, some people like the Colonel, or even Jim Stewart's son. Same deal. Listen to the radio show. He listen to the things that
I know
you
you're
talk
going to
about.
have the thinnest radio audience on
Oh, it's
the face of the planet.
Well, look what I've done. I mean, I'm not full-fledged on the 20 grams or less a day on carbs, but I'm certainly doing the 72-hour fast every week. I'm in my 5th week of doing that. I've lost 12 pounds. But interestingly enough, and I talked about this last week on your show, is that on my feed days, if you will, which begin on Thursdays, I don't really want a lot of carbs. And if I eat too much of them, which I did about 3 weeks ago, on a Sunday, I really loaded up heavy because I was thinking, oh, man, Monday's coming. I start my fast on Monday. And Sunday, I ate a ton of that stuff. And Monday morning, or maybe it was late Sunday night, I can't remember which, but I was actually throwing up. I was sick.
Yeah.
I did not feel good.
And another Thanksgiving tip. I mean, I have done that over Thanksgiving. And the sad, excuse me, the sad part was that I wasn't even intentionally cheating. There's 2 holidays, a Thanksgiving and a Christmas, and on both of these, I was like, well, I'll have some fruit, but there was a lot of sugar in the fruit salad.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll have something else, and both of those holidays, I ended up same thing, just nauseated and felt sick,
feeling good.
and the sad part was it wasn't like I ate something super decadent, like pecan pie or something like that. It's just
That's what it was.
For you, it was
It was a pecan pie. That's what
right.
I had because it was my birthday, right?
Yeah,
And
because pecan
it made
pie
me
is
sick.
It's that
Wow, I love
syrup
pecan
and
pie.
sugar and sugar and sugar.
I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. So over the holidays, and I can remember doing Thanksgiving, and like there's several people there kind of on the program, but some of the people were just like, well, I'll eat whatever I want. And so it's after Thanksgiving, we're all sitting around talking, and the people who kind of ate whatever they wanted, they're sitting there comatose in the chair, kind of like leaned over, eyes hardly open, just like their brain's not working, their stomachs all puffed out,
Yeah,
and
bad.
they were in that semi-comatose state. And so most Thanksgiving is about enjoying yourself. It's about having a great time, spending time with family and friends, and it's a lot easier to enjoy yourself if you feel good than it is to enjoy yourself if you feel bloated and nauseated and tired, and that's kind of that's what the carbs do to you. The sugar, the refined carbohydrates, the grains, they make you feel like that. And what people don't realize is that they feel like people who eat sugar or bread every day, they kind of feel that way every day, but they don't realize it. They think it's normal until they quit.
Yeah.
And then once they quit, you hear something like the Colonel said, I feel better than I have in 10 years. That's because he was feeling that way every day. You take that away, then
Yeah, it's kind of like
boom.
you get used to it in a strange sense, right? I mean,
yeah, you get used to it. And he mentioned that the gliadin, which is one of the gluten proteins, or a component of gluten protein, that it's addictive. And it is addictive. I mean, it kind of makes people feel better. It stimulates an opiate response, and the opiate response is the same thing that's stimulated by heroin. And so you kind of feel better, but at the same time your whole body feels worse, and you kind of keep going back and back to the grains to look for that. Good.
All right, let's go to the phones. Good morning. Welcome into the show.
Yeah, morning.
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 I had
Good.
a friend of mine many years ago tell me, he said, you don't miss what you don't have. And a lot of times, that's the way I found out. If I don't eat sweets, I used to crave pie so much. But when I got away from it and other sweets, I found out that I don't want it that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly
That's true.
right.
That's absolutely true. That's a good point. Absolutely.
One of the things that we do in the metabolic coaching program is I give people a set of audio tracks, and they work like their subconscious reprogramming. They help to reprogram your subconscious, and that kind of helps people to get over the initial hump of getting rid of the pies and getting rid of the bread.
That's the hardest part. That is the hardest part. If you can...
That's the hardest part. Yep.
Several weeks or 30 days, 40, somewhere in there, they say, if you can stay the course,
Mm-hmm.
you can make it.
Yeah, I agree completely, and that's why
Is that what it takes, about 30 to 40, really? Because that's what the Colonel kind of alluded to, that 30, 40 days. But after that, it's like easy street, almost, it seems.
I've made the metabolic coaching program 3 months long. I made it 90 days long because it takes somewhere between 3 weeks to 3 months to make a permanent long-term change. And so and that's why he's saying, kind of 4 weeks. I don't know if it's going to be 4 weeks for you or 6 weeks, or maybe it's going to be kind of 3 months, but I want to support you all the way through that. And so, yes, it's going to take 3 weeks to 3 months to make that long-term change. And so, you're exactly right. After that, you start to change your behavior, subconsciously, to where you just don't want it. Where you wanted it before, you just don't want it because it's not a part of your life. Like you said, you don't miss something you don't have, or don't see on TV.
Right.
Yeah. That's another thing. Those food commercials, aren't they something?
Yeah, they sure are. But I'll tell you, now at the house we watch. I can think of growing up as a kid, there was a lot more food commercials than there are now. It seems like that because there was kids cereal and junk food.
Oh, yeah,
all
the cereals.
There was so much of that, and there's not as much today. And luckily with my kids, they usually watch their TV programs on Netflix. So if it's like they get a TV time, they'll watch it on Netflix and there's no commercials.
Yeah.
And so I'm really thankful my kids aren't walked past hours and hours and hours of commercials while they're 7 years old.
Sure.
I know. I know, especially with Wade, he lives with commercials. But,
yeah.
People need to advertise their product, but sometimes some of those things really do get a bit tedious.
Well, I think Wade he's got a great show. He's got a great audience, and he's even got great commercials. He's doing a lot for health. So he's trying to undo a lot of the
right.
pizza and junk food commercials. So.
Oh, he is. He has me hooked. I listen all the time because I learned so much.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I do. All right, guys. Take care.
Hey, thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving, okay? All right, thanks for the call. Yeah, I mean, the things we do here on this radio station, there's no other station in Lubbock that does this kind of health-related programming, if you will. I mean, it's not there. I mean, but that's been one of our core foundational principles, if you will, over the last 20-plus years, is that we do a lot of different health segments, and some of the health segments actually sometimes contradict one another, but that's okay. I mean, there's different ways to look at things out there. That's true, but I've taken pride in the fact that over the years that we have really done this, and I think it's a community service, and people can go and try it, and if it works, which if you do it by the standard, it will, and they'll be happy and feel better, and boy, that's great. That's great news for me. And you, especially you, as far as your plan is concerned.
A couple of reasons why I do the show is, number one, it provides a follow-up for people who can't come in to the Friday follow-up, and that's why I always like to record the show. I like to record the show so that I can put it up on YouTube on the You can catch almost all the shows on the YouTube channel. It's just search Cut the Killer Carbs on YouTube. And so I like to do it for follow-up for clients. I like to reach out to people. But, I mean, the truth is, I don't get a whole bunch of clients from the show because most of the people, like the Colonel, or like Jim Stewart's son, they'll just go on and do the free content.
Yeah, they're not calling you for the service.
Yeah, they're not
necessarily.
calling me for the service. They're not paying me for anything. They'll show up. They'll send me a message or something and show up and say, "Hey, I lost 45 pounds."
No, off the radio program. Isn't that wonderful? That means it works too well right here, Dr. Anderson.
Yeah.
To the text line we go.
I'll get rid of the free content tab. And it'll be
Yeah,
like,
oh yeah. No,
hey.
you won't. But anyway, I mean, it's really a nominal fee anyway to have you personally.
The program's $49 a month for 3 months.
It's
if you
gym
want to do
membership
the paid
kinda
program.
deal. It's a lot better. The website again was metaboliccoaching.net. That's what the question was asked on Facebook on the text line.
It's metaboliccoaching.net because and actually, Wade, you should call the program Metabolic Coaching. You should call the radio program Metabolic Coaching rather than Cut the Killer Carbs, because
well, that's what okay. Well, that's fine. You tell me. That's what I've been saying all this time.
My first seminar I gave was Cut the Killer Carbs, and I like Cut the Killer Carbs because it's catchy and it sounds good, and it really emphasizes that these carbohydrates, the sugars, the grains, the refined carbs, they're making us sick. They're making us sick. Those are the things that are killing us. And so I love that title, but it's got the word killer in it, which is kind of negative.
Well, wait,
You know.
But wait a minute. Isn't it true, though, Doctor? I mean, again, I'll play devil's advocate on the show, which I do every Tuesday. Not all carbs are bad, number one, right? And number two, everything in moderation. You hear that a lot. What do you say to those folks that say, oh, now wait a minute, everything in moderation?
Yeah, you don't need lead in moderation. You don't need
gosh.
black widow spider venom in moderation.
Oh.
You don't need rattlesnake venom in moderation. So basically, it's, you've heard of the paleo diet, and the paleo diet is, well, let's go back to the diet of our ancestors. And so our ancestors before agriculture ate very little carbohydrates during the day, and the time when they really would eat carbohydrates would be in the late summer and fall, when the fruit was ripe, and that's because they were fattening up for the winter. And then about 10,000 years ago was the agricultural revolution, and humans started growing rice and barley and oats and all these sort of things, and so the carbohydrate in our diet went up significantly. And studies have shown that people got smaller, shorter stature and smaller brains when they started eating carbs, when they started eating the grains and stuff from the agricultural revolution. But then what's happened in the last 200 years is that it's just like a hockey stick graph, and it's gotten to the point to where the average American eats 150 pounds of flour and 150 pounds of sugar every year, and your body can't handle that.
It's
So
just too much.
It's just too much. And so the whole goal of metabolic coaching, it's similar to the paleo diet. The paleo diet is just another name for a different sort of low-carb diet, is to go back to what our body is used to and what our body is made to eat, which is a very low amount of carbohydrates.
Well, we talked, I think it was last week, because I asked you about the 40 diet. What
The Whole 30.
The Whole 30, thank you. The Whole 30 deal.
Uh-huh.
And basically the Whole 30 is what we talk about, except with your plan, it's the Whole 365.
Right. That's exactly
So
right.
the Whole 30 thing, because if you read some of the people that did the Whole 30 diet, they always talk about how that, in that 30 days I did so, it was hard, but I lost a little bit of weight, but man, they didn't. The problem is with the Whole 30 plan is that by the time they get over all the challenges, if you go right back to eating
then you're
like
done.
you were,
You're done with the 30.
the Whole 30 doesn't make sense to me, because you've done all the pain to kind of get your body to detox and get rid of all this stuff, and then you turn right around and after 30 you go, wow, that was brutal, I'm glad I accomplished that, but then that's when it gets easy.
I think that the hope of one of the reasons to do the Whole 30 is to say, well, you're just committing for 30 days. And so, like, people can handle that mentally. They can say, okay, 30 days, I can do that.
Right.
And then they hope that after you do 30 days, you're going to feel so good that you'll just keep eating that way. And I'll just tell you that in my experience, it really doesn't work that way. If you want to keep eating that way and keep the weight off and keep feeling better, you have to change your subconscious programming. And I would do that with the audio tracks. They're available on metaboliccoaching.net, or you get them as part of the program. And those will help change your subconscious programming to where you don't just do a diet for 30 days. Because the hard part is when you're trying to willpower your way through those 30 days. And willpower on its own just isn't enough to carry you long term. If you've ever heard the expression, we only use 10% of our brain, well, the 10% or 2%, some people say 2%, the 10% of our brain that we use is the conscious mind. And so when you're using willpower, you're consciously trying to will yourself not to eat the cake, and consciously trying to will yourself not to eat the bread or the bun on your burgers, and it's exhausting. I gotta stop doing that. It's exhausting. And so rather than do that to where you're trying to willpower and fight against your subconscious programming, which says bread is good, hamburger buns are good, Mama gave me bread and Mama loved me, Mama wasn't trying to kill me. So rather than fight against that, you listen to the audio tracks. They recruit your subconscious mind to where your subconscious and your conscious, they work together.
Yeah.
Both of them trying to avoid the carbohydrates. And that's how you reach your goal of making a long-term change instead of another yo-yo diet.
Yeah, that's a perfect illustration of why Whole30 doesn't really make sense to me. Because if you just do it, I mean, it's like you get over all the rough patches, and then at the end of that program, then you quit.
Yeah.
I'm like, really? I mean, you just did an amazing thing. First of all, to go 30 days on 20 grams of carbs a day, or less a day, and then in the 30 you go, I'll just go back to eating 150 grams of carbs a day.
And that's one thing that I don't think.
What?
That's why the Atkins diet, as far as the nutritional recommendations, I mean, really, in the induction phase, which is the first phase, it's spot on. But then when they start adding back the carbohydrates, they'll allow you to add things like whole wheat bread and things like that. And just like the Colonel was saying, the whole wheat bread is like addictive. The sugar is addictive, and so I think that's why a lot of people end up falling off the Atkins bandwagon, is when they add things back, they add in the grains, or they might add in the sugars, and then they get right back into that addictive cycle and completely fall off the wagon.
Mm-hmm.
So cut them out permanently, and you're right, the first 30 days or so, that's going to be the hard part.
Yeah, it is. That's the most difficult part. And through your program, if you're doing the program and say you plateau, say you're doing really well and you're 3, 4, 5 months, 6 months into it and lost some weight, and then all of a sudden a few weeks goes by and you're not really losing any weight, you incorporate intermittent fasting, which that's what I do.
Yeah, I'll tell you that that's I'm glad you brought that up, plateaus. That's one of the most successful things, is to incorporate some fasting along with low carb, because low carb diet lowers your insulin levels by 50%. Fasting will lower your insulin levels another 50%. And so and insulin is what causes your body to store fat, and you want to release fat. You want to burn fat, get rid of your fat. And so usually what I recommend people do is if they hit a plateau, they'll do a 24-hour fast 2 days a week, and that's usually enough to get them by. And the fasting, what a fast means is, let's say you have dinner on Monday, then you don't eat breakfast or lunch on Tuesday, and you have dinner on Tuesday. So from dinner Monday to dinner Tuesday, 24 hours, where your only calories really are going to be water or coffee, although some people can do bulletproof coffee, which is coffee with MCT oil and grass-fed butter mixed into it, or you could just do coconut oil and grass-fed butter mixed into it. That way your calories only, if you have any calories during your fast, they only come from fat, and that's called a fat fast. So
yeah, I don't do that.
I'll tell you something about another thing about plateaus is that the diet, the metabolic coaching diet, is all about lowering insulin. Okay, there are actually two hormones that cause weight gain. Insulin's the big one, and for 90% of people, if you focus on insulin and get their insulin down, they're going to lose weight.
Mm-hmm.
But the second hormone is cortisol, and cortisol is steroids made by your adrenal glands.
That's the fight or flight stuff.
That's fight or flight. That's your stress hormone. And so to address your stress hormone, cortisol. So let's say you're in the 90% who loses weight by lowering your insulin. Great, you're doing fine. If you're in the 10%, you've lowered your insulin, but you're not losing weight, then you got to start to address the cortisol. And there's two big things you can do. One is sleep. Did we talk about sleep? Have we done sleep yet?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we've briefly mentioned it, but you haven't packaged it in such a way to say the two main killers that prevent you from losing weight, cortisol and insulin. But yeah, so how do you address the cortisol situation?
So address the cortisol, I would say number one is sleep. Number two is going to be do the Morley Robbins root cause protocol. So let's talk about sleep first. Sleep, I read a book recently in the 4-Hour Body. We talked about this. And in the 4-Hour Body, he talks about increasing his REM sleep. REM sleep is that dreaming sleep. If you get enough REM sleep, you feel rested, you feel restored. And he said he found 2 ways that he could increase his REM sleep. Number one was to wake up at 4 a.m. and then go back to sleep. For some reason, that increased his percentage of REM sleep. And I would rather not do that. I don't want to wake up at 4 and go back to sleep. Number two is to push his sleep out to 9 hours of sleep. Because what happens is during the first few hours of sleep, you have very little REM. But during the last 1 or 2 hours of sleep, you have a lot of REM cycles. And what some people will notice is, or I noticed this personally, let's say you stay in bed an extra hour. During that extra hour, you're not exactly quite asleep. You're dreaming and dreaming and dreaming. Well, that dreaming and dreaming and dreaming is what you need to reduce your stress levels and feel more rested the next day. So I have decided that for 25 years, I haven't slept enough. Because I've always thought, well, if I get 7 hours of sleep, I should probably be fine. If I get 8 hours of sleep, then, I mean, who shouldn't feel rested after 8 hours of sleep? But there would still be times when I felt fatigued, even after 8 hours of sleep. But I've recently, in the past several weeks, pushed my sleep out to where I get 9 hours of sleep. And with 9 hours of sleep, I feel fabulous. And so it's real. And that last hour, the interesting thing is that you can't really just sleep later. Because if you sleep later, the way your sleep cycles are, you don't really catch those REMs. Instead, you have to go to bed earlier. So I would tell you, one of the things, if you're at a weight loss plateau, something that will reduce stress in your life is to go to bed an hour earlier. You can try 2 hours earlier and really push out your sleep. Another reason why that works is this. A lot of people are naturally tired about the time the sun goes down. That's kind of a natural tired, because before incandescent lights and artificial lights, we would go to sleep when the sun went down.
That's the way mankind developed, right?
The way mankind developed. However, today we turn on the TV. We have all these fluorescent lights and these
we're on our
LED
smartphones.
lights. We're on our phones, screens shining in our eyes. And so what happens is you're kind of naturally tired when the sun goes down. And let's say that's 8 o'clock. You're naturally tired. But then you end up staying up till 11:30.
That's me.
What gets you from 8 o'clock to 11:30 is that your adrenal glands release cortisol. They release stress hormone. And that stress hormone causes you to hold on to fat. Because your body thinks, I'm under stress, and so I need to hold on to as many calories as I can because, I don't know when I'm going to eat again.
And then on top of that, you aggravate the situation because you probably run to the fridge because you're hungry again after dinner.
And you're hungry. Yeah.
I noticed that was my problem as well. Even though the snack I was grabbing at night was deemed a quote-unquote healthy snack, meaning maybe it was a couple of hard-boiled eggs and a slice of cheese or something. But that was still calories. And I didn't, I that was ridiculous.
It is a cortisol stress response that gets you from 8 until 11:30.
Yeah.
And that's what I did for years. Is, I would be kind of tired at 8 and we'd put the kids in bed at 8. And I'd be kind of tired and sleepy then. But I'd get up, work on my computer. It was my quiet time to do a couple of hours of work in front of my screen, and which messes up your melatonin levels. And so what I do now is at 8 o'clock, I put the kids in bed. I turn down all the lights in the house. They're not off. I only
You
run.
have your essential oils being
No,
vaporized.
I don't.
Dr.
My wife likes essential oils, but I turn the lights down. We have incandescent bulbs,
Right.
and I only run the incandescents, and I put them on the dimmer and put the dimmer down, and that way I'm not being stimulated because I'm pretty tired at 8, and then I'll try to go to sleep at 9, and then I'll get a good 9 hours of sleep, and I never could understand why 8 hours of sleep didn't make me feel completely rested. And it's because you have to push your sleep out. For me, I had to push my sleep out to 9 hours
Yeah.
to get that extra hour of REM sleep, and all those REMs make me feel rested and refreshed.
Well, I don't do that, and that's a big problem for me. I'm doing like what you said that you used to do. I mean, I normally don't even get to bed till, generally speaking, 11 o'clock, and that alarm at my place is going off at 4:45.
Yeah.
That's just not enough time. And that cortisol was really a big problem for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
And the cortisol causes you to hold on to weight.
yes, it does.
So that's why sleep is important to weight loss. Sleep is important because you get more hours of sleep.
And you're burnt, and then your body chemistry is different when you're sleeping as well.
Yeah, because, sleep deprivation is torture. If you wanted,
Oh, I know.
Right?
Talk to the guys at Gitmo about that.
Right. So that's what they'll do is they'll sleep deprive people, and it puts them under constant stress, and that constant stress will break them. And the interesting thing is, for 25 years, I was sleep depriving myself.
I think a
I
lot
was
of
torturing
Americans
myself, but I had no clue until I read that book. Also, another book that has a lot of good information on sleep is called The Primal Blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
And in The Primal Blueprint, he talks about a lot about the lights and the screens and stuff to avoid. So if you want to read a section on sleep, you can read either The 4-Hour Body. I'll warn you, it has a big section in there on sex. So if you don't want to if you don't want a book that has a big section on sex, don't get The 4-Hour Body. And then the Primal Blueprint.
Behave.
That's your Austin Powers. The Primal Blueprint has a great section on sleep. Now, in Dave Asprey's book, The Bulletproof Diet, he talks about what he calls sleep hacks. And the sleep hacks are different, machines you can hook up to your head that put electrical impulses through your brain and can make it to where you feel rested with less sleep. And so, if you're looking for, and he prides himself on the fact that he only sleeps like 6 hours a night or 5 hours a night. So, as for me and my house, I think we'll just try to sleep naturally and get more sleep.
That makes good sense.
Yeah.
But now, you said the Morley Robbins, to deal with cortisol, his protocol,
Yes.
which is, reduce the iron, get more copper, magnesium. Magnesium, of course, in a lot of cases being the calming, relaxing mineral, because we're all short of these wonderful, magnificent minerals that we don't have. So the Morley Robbins part, that's a good supplement.
Right.
Say supplement, but a good way to go.
So we talked about the two big hormones that cause weight gain are insulin and cortisol.
Correct.
And just doing the diet, the metabolic coaching diet, will lower insulin levels. And you can do some fasting, also lower insulin levels.
Yes.
Increasing your sleep will lower cortisol levels. Now, the Morley Robbins root cause protocol, you can read about that at gotmag.org. It also is all about reducing stress on the body.
That's right.
And according to Morley, and I think it makes perfect sense, the number one stressor on the human body is too much iron. And so part of the protocol, and he doesn't discuss this much on the air, but part of the protocol is donating blood. And for men, you get your ferritin tested, and if your ferritin tested is in the high end of normal, and I think normal, I might butcher this, but normal ferritin goes from somewhere like 50 to 250. Mine's 247.
Ooh.
So I'm up there. And donating blood is one of the things you do on the Morley Robbins protocol to get rid of the excess iron, and getting rid of the excess iron lowers stress in your body. Another thing that's part of the Morley Robbins protocol is whole food vitamin C. And your adrenal glands use whole food vitamin C in order to make normal amounts of stress hormones, and so you need whole food vitamin C so your adrenals work correctly. Also, it's about restoring, like you said, the copper and the iron balance. Copper and iron. So you lower the iron through donating blood. Also, the whole food vitamin C helps to get rid of some of the iron. And you increase the copper by eating beef liver. Also, bee pollen and I think beef liver, bee pollen, and something else I can't remember. But anyway, so this I had known from reading Dr. Bernstein's book called Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. And if you want a book that tells you everything you need to know about how to reverse type 2 diabetes by doing a low carbohydrate diet, read that book, Dr. Bernstein's Diabetes Solution. And in that book he says some diabetics, those diabetics, if they still can't control their sugars despite doing the diet, they need to get their magnesium red blood cell tested, and then take magnesium to get their magnesium red blood cell level up. Well, what's Morley Robbins all about? Adding the magnesium.
Yeah, that's right.
So
and the right kind of magnesium.
And
the citrate or the.
What Morley's protocol does is it
Right.
explains. I mean, he talks about and knows the enzymes about why that actually works. Why does taking magnesium improve blood sugars? I can't recall off the top of my head. Also in Dr. Bernstein's book, he talks about type 2 diabetics, especially for pilots. There are certain medications that pilots can't take and still fly. And so pilots, they need good blood sugars, they need to control their blood sugars, but without taking excessive amounts of certain medications. And so one of the things they can do, according to Dr. Bernstein, is donate blood. But Dr. Bernstein doesn't explain why it works, but donating blood will lower blood sugars and hemoglobin A1C.
Yeah.
And Morley explains why it works. It's because they're iron toxic.
I asked Morley when he was out here at the radio station last week, live in studio. I asked him, I said, well, if I can't donate blood at United Blood Services because of my Army service, and because I've had like smallpox vaccinations and anthrax, and this, I go walking in there and they're like, nope, thank you, but no.
Therapeutic
Therapeutic is one way, or he said, you can, like, he goes, are you doing these 72-hour fasts? He goes, really, after about 4 days of fast, you start burning that stuff off. You start detoxing.
Right. Yes.
So that was another way, but a lot of people are like, there's no way I'm going to go 4 days without food. But that's another way.
That's right, like a long-term fast,
you
if you do more than 3 hours, then you start to liberate some of the iron.
That's true.
And basically, it's not that you're iron toxic. It's not that you're iron toxic in your blood. It's that your organs, like your liver, your pancreas, your adrenals, your brain, all those organs are holding on to too much iron. And so when you donate blood, you make a hormone called erythropoietin, and that hormone sends a signal to liberate the iron out of your liver, out of your organs, out of your brain, to get into your blood so that you can make new blood cells. Well, it goes to your bone marrow so you can make new blood cells. And so it's just a process of liberating out all that captured iron.
Mm-hmm.
Now, women of childbearing age who are menstruating, a lot of times they are not as iron toxic because they have a natural blood loss kind of once monthly. However, they may be deficient in copper. They may be deficient in whole food vitamin C.
Right.
They may be deficient in magnesium. So all those other things might apply. So the point of all that is this: if you're doing the diet and you've gotten to where your blood sugars are better, but you still want to improve your blood sugars more, or you have gotten to a weight loss plateau and you've done fasting, you've tried some different strategies, and they're not necessarily working, then I would say, number one, work on your sleep. Move your sleep out. Add an extra hour to your sleep, which means go to bed an hour earlier. And then you can try to go to bed 2 hours earlier. You can try and bump it out until you feel really refreshed during the day. When you feel really refreshed during the day, you're going to know you've got the right amount of sleep.
Right.
Number two, do the Morley Robbins root cause protocol. See if you can because I've got a lot. Well, do the Morley Robbins root cause protocol to lower your iron levels and increase your copper and your magnesium levels. A lot of clients who come to the metabolic coaching program, they're postmenopausal women. And an interesting thing is that women have a much lower incidence of heart disease than men until they go through menopause, and then they catch up with men. Well, they lag about 10 years behind, but they'll end up having just as high incidence of heart disease. And that's because
Postmenopausal. Right, because they stopped with the monthly periods.
That's right. They stopped with the monthly
Which
blood loss.
is a kind of a blood loss detox.
And so they start building up more and more and more iron during that
Very
postmenopausal
true. I didn't
period.
think about that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, quick text, because I think you mentioned this last week on the show, maybe.
Hit me.
The apple cider vinegar shot. You do take those again, right?
Yeah.
I've not done it yet. I hear that some people do really well with it. Is that? I see it going around on the internet. What do you think? Do you like it or no? And tell us a little bit about that.
Well, this comes from Dr. Fung's videos. I don't know if you've not the interesting thing about Dr. Fung. Fung is the intermittent fasting guy.
That's correct.
And he's written the books on intermittent fasting. But he has about 6 or 7 hours of videos. And if you watch his 6 or 7 hours of videos, about 90% of the time he talks about why a low-carb diet works. And then his conclusion at the end is, so you need to fast. Which is kind of funny.
Right.
But it and I don't say that to be critical. I just it's just interesting. But what happens is he has so much data and has gone through so many studies, and he has the slides right there and he shows them to you. They're on his YouTube channel. And one of them, actually there's 2 or 3 different studies where they talk about vinegar or apple cider vinegar and blood sugar and insulin levels. And taking 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar before you go to bed has been shown to lower morning blood sugars and lower fasting insulin levels. And so if you want to lose weight, it's all about lowering insulin levels.
So he's recommending you take that during the fast. 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar during the fast itself.
No, I don't think so.
Because that would be kind of rough. I mean, because all I'm doing is doing water, tea, and coffee, and the tea is like a green tea or something like that.
I don't think he recommends it during the fast. And
although I do take the Morley Robbins protocol. I started that in my fast,
yeah.
and that works out fine.
And so one of the things that's included in the Morley Robbins protocol, not only are you detoxing iron, but you take the adrenal cocktail.
That's right. That's the adrenal cocktail is what I do.
The adrenal cocktail is a little bit of sea salt with a little bit of potassium, and you get that from cream of tartar. With some whole food vitamin C, you can use a powder, or you can juice
and a little bit of coconut.
You can juice something like a lime or a lemon. You can do an orange, but an orange is kind of high carb.
Yeah,
so,
I don't want to spike the sugar.
But yeah, the adrenal cocktail is just about supporting your adrenals, because what happens is if you don't have enough sodium and potassium, then your adrenal glands, they start to send out hormones. The hormones are to cause you to hold on to fluid,
especially during a fast.
To hold on to fluid and hold on to salt. Right. To hold on to the sodium and potassium. So you just support your adrenals by taking a little bit, and it's
I take one a day during a 3-day fast. I do one around, I don't know, 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Feel great.
And I'll tell you, once again, the reason I like Morley Robbins protocol so much is that it ties up so many loose ends about why magnesium helps, why donating blood helps, why taking an adrenal cocktail helps lower your cortisol, and also something like eating the beef liver. In the paleo diet and primal diets, and they'll say, yeah, you need to eat beef liver. You need to eat organ meats. Why? And
it's the copper.
Why? Yeah, and so a lot of times there's not an explanation as to why you need to eat the organ meats. Well, the reason you need to eat the organ meats is because to get the copper, exactly like you said. And also things like cod liver oil. Cod liver oil, you need the vitamin A.
That's right.
And you don't. here's another thing that it ties up, is you don't just need, if you get vitamin A in a multivitamin, it'll say contains beta carotene listed on the multivitamin. But your body has to convert the beta carotene into animal-based vitamin A called retinol for you to be able to use it. Well, cod liver, some people don't convert beta carotene to retinol very well. And what you need is the retinol. That's why you take the cod liver oil. The same thing goes for vitamin K. There's vitamin K1, which is found in plants, and there's vitamin K2, which is found in grass-fed beef, butter, and cheese. Especially fermented things like cheese. And so the reason you would do grass-fed beef is not necessarily because it has more omega-3s. You eat grass-fed beef because you need the vitamin K2. The vitamin K2 is what helps tell the calcium to go into your bones instead of going into your arteries. Mm-hmm. And so, and one of the things he says is eat an ancestral diet. Ancestral diet includes grass-fed beef. So there's the vitamin A, the retinol, that's from the cod liver oil. It's animal-based. The vitamin K2. The other place you can get vitamin K2 is from like Bubby's sauerkraut or Bubby's pickles, something that's an actively fermented food, because the fermentation process can happen in the gut of the cow, or fermentation can happen in a jar. And if you get an actively fermented sauerkraut like Bubby's, you get the vitamin K2.
And that's really good for when you're coming off a long fast, is to take that as one of your first meals. When you start to recycle back into normal eating, mm-hmm. is the sauerkraut like you're talking about. Well, I mean, that's perfect.
And I'll tell you, I've donated blood twice, 2 months apart, as part of doing the Morley Robbins protocol myself. I'm doing it myself. And I'll usually eat beef liver for lunch, do that once a week. And on the days when I eat beef liver for lunch, I mean, I feel supercharged. And I really do. And so if you're going to, let's say you're going to exercise. Let's say you're going to work out. You're going to work out once a week, Do it on the day when you have beef liver for lunch.
Yeah, man, that's right.
And you could really tear it up.
Well, that's good stuff. And, of course, Thanksgiving coming up, so just, be careful out there. There's a lot of places, pitfalls, and things that can happen to you. But I tell you what, you can always check out Metabolic Coaching and learn more about how you can get back to good health. And if you're facing any kind of inflammation, or you've been told or diagnosed diabetic, or you don't, you can beat Tresiba now, I guess. I mean, if you really want to do that. But I recommend not, But I see those commercials all over the place.
That's the deal. When I was a kid, it was all food commercials. And now that I'm an adult, it's all drug commercials.
It's all drugs.
It's
everything.
It's because all the food we ate when we were kids.
It's the heartburn drug. It's the Nexiums. We talked about this yesterday on the Dr. Edwards show. But you're right. I mean, it's all the, let's take Nexium for this, and we're on Tresiba now for my high insulin, and it just goes on and on and on. All these people. Then I'm on 10 different medications, and
I'll give you one
situation.
One other tip for Thanksgiving is that if you end up on Thanksgiving eating whatever you want, or being less strict with your diet on Thanksgiving or whatever, that's fine. But just don't do it. Not that's fine. It's not preferred, but it's okay. The goal is not to do that for the whole week, and don't eat the leftovers all week and that sort of thing, because one day will throw you back 4 days. You can probably handle that. But if you just get back into eating whatever you want, you'll go into all those addictive patterns of behavior. So
yeah, right. Good point. Well, Dr. Anderson, once again, we appreciate it. Good stuff today, and you have a great rest of the week, and happy Thanksgiving.
You too, Wade. Happy Thanksgiving.
You bet. I will see you back here next Tuesday on the show, right here on AM 580. So, it'll be the last week of November. Actually, it runs out Thursday, of next week. But nevertheless, happy Thanksgiving. And again, check us out, metaboliccoaching.net. And Cut the Killer Carbs on Facebook. Of course, our direct number, 448-0322, 448-0322. Dr. Anderson, once again, have a wonderful one. I'll see you back here
Wade.
next week on the show. Stick around now. Unconfused coming up next.
Today I'm visiting